All right, guys, so watch this video for Friday, December 16th. One quick reminder, on Tuesday at 7:30 p.m., we've got a free webinar talking about entering at inflection points. If you've ever entered a stock and been red immediately and felt like an idiot, which I've done a million times in my life, I got tired of it, and I've learned to sit in cash and wait till I have a setup where a stock hits that inflection point, I get long, and it should be green right away, right? And the beauty of being green, the beauty of catching a stock right at that point is you get the push you were looking for. You can immediately sell some into that push, and you're left with what I call free shares, right? The rest of your shares are free so long as you protect your entry on the rest. So it's a great way to trade, and that is what our webinar is about. So join Wayne and I on Tuesday at 7:30. You can find the links on my Twitter feed at Great Stock Picks, or in if you're on my email list as well. So let's look at the SPY here. It is, it's kind of just looks like after this big rally, looked like it was going to roll over, and now maybe settling into a range. We'll see, right? IWM bounced today right at the 8-day moving average, so the market seems okay. So let's jump right into the watch list here. EVOK, let's start with that one. Now this doesn't, obviously this chart, there's nothing interesting at all. Little volume spike though today, but anyway, the reason for the call, the reason why it's on watch is it's gapping in after hours to 225. So we're set to, right here is 225, so that's an interesting gap. We're certainly going to watch it in the morning as a potential gap and go. I want to stress this. There's guys running chat rooms out there that will just get long in the opening 10 seconds of anything that's on their gap list. And that is extremely dangerous. And that's another reason for that webinar on Tuesday, right? You have to have a method. You have to have a process in place, or you're just guessing, right? It is just a crapshoot. So I will never take an opening gap play unless it meets my intraday parameters, right? So you really, really want to be careful about following anyone that just jumps in at the open, because I promise you that person has no idea if it's going to go up or down, and nobody does. Right at the open, when a stock opens, it can go either way. You've got to have a process and make it meet those parameters where your odds jump, tenfold as far as being potentially right. So never, never, never just jump in a stock at the open, and never, never, never just jump in or follow anybody who jumps into stock at the open. That's super, super important if you want to make it, and have a professional long-term trading career. All right. So anyway, EVOK, if it meets our intraday parameters tomorrow, it is at 225. That's, it's pretty strong. It's closing at after hours high. So it is definitely, the news is well liked. So let's keep that one on watch. Potential gap and go tomorrow. CBIO, this volume, we've got to watch it. It did close below its open, but it just goes on watch tomorrow because maybe it gives us a low risk setup. IDXG, if you can't understand the symbol I'm saying, it's always going to be right up here in the upper left hand corner. IDXG, I really thought this one was going to rip this morning. Let me get the after hours off of there. These are 5-minute candles, and this is what it looked like after the open this morning. When you had this high yesterday of 125, it gapped up, sold off, and then got right back to that 125. I ended up taking a flat in this. I got long right here at the red to green when it couldn't break through the high, which was also another catalyst because it was yesterday's high, and it came back to my entry. I was back out. It said I made $24, but I doubt that after commissions, right? It was probably basically a flat. But this one was super interesting. And then it closed off, I don't know, somewhere close to the lows of its range. So it just goes on watch. I'm less in love with it than I was this morning, but it certainly deserves to be on watch after that big move about a week ago. Pier 1, PIR, really strong volume and potential follow-through day tomorrow. I'm going to show you real quick. Wayne, my partner in the trading course, moderator in our chat room, called this long right over this candle, right? 799 actually, because it opened at 790. Because 799, looking for the push through the whole number. Whole number breaks in the right context can be very powerful, and you can see that this one was an excellent call by Wayne. 799, low of day stop. I think worst case, less than 20 cents, and it went up to 909, so well over $1. Just a beautiful call by Wayne. Love that one, and I'm looking for a follow through day tomorrow. It'll catch some attention tonight when people get home and do their scans and all that. So anyway, maybe a red to green, something like that. Dry ships, everybody and their mother's going to be watching this thing. Now, it's hard to see what it did because it had that crazy move to 100, but if I zoom way in, you can see how strong this thing was today. The range 377 to 544, closing pretty much at its highs. I made about 1,500 trading this one today, and I definitely want to watch the shippers again tomorrow. All right. And I've got a couple other, again, when you get to the daily, this thing just looks weird. All right, anyway, dry ships will be on watch tomorrow, DRYS. DCIX, another shipper. All the shippers went crazy today. Maybe a red to green or something in this thing tomorrow. Maybe it gaps up and we played as a potential gap and go play. Again, making it meet the parameters. But that one's interesting too. And you could pick anyone. Here's another one, ESEA. So those are the three shippers I'm watching. I'm watching dry ships, DCIX, and ESEA for potential setups. They should all probably do pretty much the same thing. SKLN, after this big pop, you had a big pop here, big pop yesterday, and then an inside day today, so it goes back on watch for tomorrow. OPTT, very obscure here, but it had a little volume spike, and OPTT can cut loose at times. It really did back here. Really nice pop here, and it's really just sideways consolidation with this one pop here. And holding this $3 support really well for like, what is that? Maybe a month, right? And so nice little volume pop today. Today's high was 335 before closing at 325. That's one of those obscure plays that might rip tomorrow. And if you happen to be trading today, you notice a little extra, I'll turn it on fives here, the little extra volume right there. And it held up pretty well at the close. So I want to watch that one tomorrow. That's OPTT. VCEL, there's a very interesting situation here. Okay, this gapped up on huge news yesterday, then sold off all day today, and then after hours you find out why it sold off all day today. They announced a secondary. And after hours close was 305. I do think this is basically a gap fill, but the secondary announcement, I don't think they gave a price. I'm not sure, or the number of shares. I could be wrong about that, so don't quote me. But when you have huge news in a bio stock, right? And then you get a secondary, that doesn't negate the huge news. And so this gap fill, they might pile in this tomorrow at the open, with the thought that, okay, this is a great opportunity. So, I'm going to keep this one on watch. It is super interesting to me for maybe a gap down bounce play setup that we teach in our course, in our chat room. So I'm going to watch that one tomorrow. It's certainly, 3 was prior resistance, so gapping down around 3, this one might just take off and go from the open, right? It had resistance back here. And again, a secondary doesn't mean that much if it's not a huge secondary and if it's got, big news under its belt. Okay, so keep that in mind. I would point to AKAO announced a secondary, I think after this first day, right? And then gapped up and ran a little bit. So anything can happen. I think this might be an opportunity in VCEL. All right, anyway, having said that, BCLI, kind of a quiet inside day. I don't like the fact that it closed red and well below yesterday's highs, but I'm going to watch it anyway, right? It might get some legs tomorrow. URBN, Urban Outfitters, teen retailer, 5 days in a row down back to recent lows. Great opportunity for a potential bounce setup tomorrow. PACD, oil and gas play after the gap up. You're 4 days lower, back in that area between the 8 and the 20 day, which I call the buy zone. Also previous resistance right here. We basically hit that today. So this is a good potential bounce play tomorrow, especially if oil's strong. All right, keep that one on watch. And then lastly, I have RLOG, which I believe is another shipper. If it's not, it certainly runs with shippers. You had this pop yesterday to $1.09, and then an inside day today to $1.08. So this one over $1.10 certainly might get ripping. So I like this one. It's very interesting, especially if the shippers go. This is a more obscure one. You can see what it did on what we call dry ships day, right? It went to almost $3. So this is a pretty good setup here too. We're also going to add some gappers in the morning. I'll leave it at that. Enjoy the rest of your evening. We'll talk to you guys tomorrow.